Okay, so for mini episode 29, I'm going to welcome back a friend and someone, fellow podcaster and someone we've had on our show before, and that is Teresa from the DL Weekly. Welcome, Teresa.
Hey, Lynn, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
Happy to talk Disney with you.
Awesome. So I wanted to, so a lot of people, a lot of our listeners, probably listen to your show. If they haven't, they need to. But I know that I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I listen to several shows, so it's not just one show, So I know that people probably listen, but so they're probably familiar with you, and if they're not, they need to check out your show, the DL Weekly. But I wanted to ask you, I was thinking about this today, and you probably told me, but I don't remember. But when was the first time you'd been to Disneyland?
Oh, gosh, it was funny. I was actually talking with a coworker. They're like, how many times have you been? And I'm like, I need to sit down and figure that out because I don't know. The first time I went, though, it was funny. The first park I ever went to was Walt Disney World, but the first time I went to Disneyland was when I was in middle school, and I think it was 2000 is when we went. Okay. So I am from the Midwest, so going to Disneyland was a pretty big deal for us. But yeah, I remember that first trip very vividly still.
Wow, we probably passed each other. I was working there then, so.
Yeah, could have been.
Yeah. So I was just curious because just something I was thinking about. I thought, wow, how much? Because I know you go quite, somewhat often now. Like especially for a Midwesterner, you go. I mean, I was just surprised when I first heard your podcast. I thought, where are they from? And when you said Wisconsin, I thought, wow, that's weird because
right, it is weird.
Yeah, I mean it's cool, but it's just weird that you never hear people that are really into Disneyland that are from that side.
Yeah, it makes sense for Tag because Tag grew up in California, but yeah, it doesn't really make sense for me because I'm from Wisconsin my whole life, so I don't know what kind of caused that, but yeah, here we are today.
Well, you knew it was a good thing, so
yeah,
you had to
exactly.
be a part of it. So we were going to talk just about kind of like a little discussion about both of our more recent trips and some of the things that we discovered, whether they be good or bad, but maybe a warning to some people and then also some advice to help their visit. I know that I had a listener, a friend of mine who listens, contacted me and was asking me about boarding groups and that he had never been on Rise and it hasn't. I think he's coming from Minnesota, so another Midwest thing. But
we're invading.
Yeah, I know. So he had never done the boarding group. He'd been to Disneyland, but he hadn't done the boarding group thing. So I was trying to explain, through text, and it's basically pretty easy. But they have changed it recently, right?
They have, yeah. So now. So we went in July for the anniversary, and that was the old system then. You'd log in, and in the middle of trying to secure your boarding pass, you'd also have to select all the people in your party. They let you do that step now ahead of time, though, which is great, because that's a couple more extra seconds for you to hop in that boarding group line. So you can go in the morning of, so they drop the first boarding group at 7 a.m., the second one they drop at noon. But you can go in ahead of time, get your people all set up. So if you maybe have extra friends that are linked to your pass that aren't going to be there that day, you can very easily say, nope, not these people. These are the people that we need it for, and get that step kind of out of the way. So it makes it a little bit quicker when that time comes.
Oh, I see. It's weird how that works because I have a bunch of different tickets on my phone, and this last time in September when we went, for some reason it knew which tickets because I was afraid that I'd have to oh no, which tickets are for today, and
yeah, thankfully it knows like which things are active, but if you have other people's, say, magic keys that are linked to your account, then that's where it kind of gets tricky because of course those are active.
So take it back to the basics on that. So from the app, there's the join a boarding group, and it's on the home page. You just have to scroll down a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing that we learned is have a friend or have your smartwatch or something out, because if you click it just a couple seconds before the group drops, so at 7 a.m., let's say, if you click it at 6:59 and 55 seconds, the time it takes for it to refresh, that actually pops you in there a little bit quicker than if you wait until, press the button, say, right at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So that's kind of nice. So if you can either look at if you have an iPhone, if you look at the actual clock app. I didn't know this until boarding groups were a thing, but the little second hand on the icon actually moves around. And you can also, so you can also look at you can just go online and find a clock that has the seconds, but there's a couple different ways, but just kind of watch the seconds. And even we did it a couple different ways where we had everyone in the group. When we were there in July, there were 4 of us. Everyone was sitting on their phones the first couple of days trying to get it, and then we realized we didn't really have to go through that great of length. It's basically just kind of beating the clock.
Yeah, I know the first time I did it, it was super stressful because that was, let's see, February, and it opened in January, I believe. So it was just a few weeks after it opened, and it was just my son and I, and he really wanted to go on it. I did too, of course, but you don't want to let down your son or daughter. And so I had all this pressure, and then you start hearing people cheering around you that got it. I'm like, oh no, and I'm trying. He's like, come on, Dad. I'm like, oh, and I finally got it. But man, I thought this is the most stressful thing I've done.
It felt much more stressful when you were in the park. You had to be in the park and doing this.
Yeah.
Thankfully now you don't have to be in the park. You could even do this from home if you wanted. And we have a listener that did that. He wanted a boarding group for later in the day, so he got on, joined a boarding group, but then he ended up getting a really low number. So he said that was the best wake-up call ever, because the adrenaline started pumping and he had to quickly get in his car and get to the resort. So yeah. The one thing too that you kind of have to pay attention to is now we have 2 rides that require boarding passes. Of course, we have Rise of the Resistance in Disneyland, and then there's also Web Slingers over in DCA. So that's another step that you have to make sure you're paying attention to, that you're in, because when you're in the Join Virtual Queue section of the app, there's a Disneyland section and a Disney California Adventure section. So if you can kind of get yourself in the correct one. What I was doing in July, I don't know if this was me just being a weirdo or if it was actually helpful. When we were trying to get a Rise of the Resistance boarding pass, I would have the virtual queue open and I'd be sitting on the DCA page. So then at 6:55, I'd hit Disneyland to get it to refresh right at 7. So because there's not really a refresh button on the app. So I was, like I said, whether or not that did anything for me, I don't know, but it made me feel better.
I never thought about that. Yeah, that's a good idea. And so it's at 7 and 12, but you have to. So if you want to go on Rise, you have to have your ticket start. If you have a hopper, have your ticket start at Disneyland, right? Yep,
exactly. The other nice thing too, if they have a hopper and you're starting your day in Disneyland, but you really want a Web Slingers boarding pass, you can still sign up for the 12 o'clock release. You do not have to be checked into the right park. You just have to be checked into a park for that one, but you don't have to be in the correct park. So you can be in Disneyland and get your Web Slingers boarding pass.
Yeah, I discovered that. We had one of our first day in July when we were there. It was we had got there late and we were going to get in the park around noon. I think we were walking from Hojo's and we were on Harbor walking, and it hit 12, and so I stopped and was trying to get it. And then later I heard that for the 12 you have to have been punched into one of the So let me think. Anything else for that? So Web Slingers is the same thing. Like if your ticket starts at DCA, then you would just be able to do that, right?
Exactly. Yep, exactly. Another thing I wanted to mention too, that we came across this most recent trip a couple weeks ago. We had dining reservations, and we also had a Rise of the Resistance boarding pass. Well, our boarding group got called, of course, and we had our reservations were in California Adventure. So our boarding group got called. We got back there. The line was nuts. I don't know if they had trouble earlier in the day or what, but the line, it was a really, really long line. So we went and asked a cast member because our reservations were going to be like in Disney California Adventure in an hour. We're like, so we have dining reservations at this time over here. What do we do? Like, and she actually told us that, cast members are pretty understanding. If your boarding group gets called and it overlaps with a dining reservation thing, go ahead, go to your dining reservation. That's your priority. Yeah. She said you can always come back and just explain, and they'll look to see, if you can't just use that excuse because you missed your boarding group time. They said that they will probably verify, but they will let you get into a later boarding group time if you had to miss yours due to a dining reservation.
Well, that's good to know.
I know, I thought so too. I'm like, how do you choose? Because it takes forever to get your dining reservations now, and getting the boarding pass is not always, a guarantee either. So we were kind of in a bind, but
penalized too if you don't show up to your dining, right?
Exactly. Yep, you do get. There is I think it's $10 per person if you miss your dining reservation. So so that's important too.
So we started off with so what if you had a Rise of Resistance, but say it was like group 120, and the 120 probably gets called around like noon nowadays. 120 back when it first started, that would be like 6 at night, but they've been going up to like 300 something. So, but what if you had that, and then at 12 noon you could still try for web slingers at 12 noon? So, even if you haven't used?
Yeah, how I understand, as long as you you can't have 2 boarding passes at the same time. So say your Rise of the Resistance boarding pass was like 200, so it wasn't going to get called until the afternoon. You then wouldn't be eligible to try and get a boarding pass for web slingers for the afternoon as well. So if you time it well and get a low boarding group for the first one, and then you'd be able to snag a second boarding group for the second release. You can't do the same attraction twice in a day, though, so you can't get 2 Rise boarding passes or 2 Web Slingers boarding passes.
And who knows how long it'll be until either this Genie Plus thing starts, or they add just the standby in like they have in Florida. So.
Yeah, this is total speculation and just something we noticed when we were there. But the last night when we were in Disneyland we just got back on, oh my gosh, let me look. It's only been like a week, but we just got back, so the last day, so our last day in the park was the 28th. And we were walking around just, taking in Disneyland. We were doing the extra hour with our magic key to do the Haunted Mansion holiday bonus that they had for key holders. But we were just wandering, and I had to try the honey cream cold brew back at Hungry Bear. So we were back at Hungry Bear, and it was like 8 o'clock at night. Definitely not a time to be going and getting coffee, but there we were. And we decided we were going to go to Fantasyland after that, so we decided to go through Galaxy's Edge. Well, as we're going through Galaxy's Edge, as we entered from the Critter Country side, we noticed that they had an extended queue for Rise all the way almost out to where that transition point was. So we actually stopped and took like a little video on our Instagram because we were like, does anyone else see? Is this normal? This feels like an extended queue for Rise right here. So I think we're getting pretty close to not having boarding groups for Rise at Disneyland. Personal opinion, I don't think Web Slingers really necessarily needs one. I think they'd be okay being standby, but I think it's coming. I think it's getting close.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I don't know if you've noticed this is totally off subject, but there hasn't been a lot of talk since they announced Genie Plus. They've been pretty quiet lately, and I don't know if it's just because of the fans' reaction to it hasn't been like the most positive. So I'm wondering if they're kind of retooling a little bit of it. I kind of hope, but
that could be.
Yeah, it's been pretty quiet though, hasn't it?
It has. Yeah, we kind of had that little teaser video just giving us a little glimpse of what it could be, but then we haven't actually heard anything since that, so we don't really have like the meat and the details of it. So it'll be interesting.
We'll see. Let's see, what else do I have here? So do do you like to? So how do you do your day? Like, do you like to stay from opening to close, or do you get there later and stay to close, or get there early and leave early? I don't know.
We're kind of all over the place. So
Really?
for the July trip when we were there for the anniversary, those days were all pretty much open to close. This past trip, though, we had later nights with Oogie Boogie Bash and then doing the extended hour for the Magic Key holders for Haunted Mansion Holiday. So we then were doing a little bit of later of a start, but by late start, instead of being there at 8, we were there at like 9. So still pretty full days. We just, whenever we go to the parks, it's just, I mean, I could just even be sitting there on Main Street relaxing, and that's still like so much more enjoyable to me than I don't like leaving the bubble, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
we try and do as long as we can.
Yeah, sometimes we if I know we want to stay till closing, sometimes it's really hard to go from opening to close, especially if it's like 8 to 11.
It's a long day, yeah.
Yeah, and I like to. It was hot last time we were there in September. I think it was like 96 or something. It was ridiculous, but it's hard. And then so the middle of the day, I always like just get on the train. I think we rode it around. We didn't even get off like 2.5 times or something.
Sure,
but,
yeah.
Yeah. So that's like my little tip. Just if you need to take a rest, do things like that, or Small World, or Tiki Room.
Animation Academy is also a great one.
Oh yeah, we went in there and air conditioning. I was like, oh, so good. Yeah, so sometimes I like to get there early. I mean, if I don't have a multiple days, then yeah, I try to just do it all in 1 or 2 days. But if I know I'm going to be there 3 or 4 days, then like, you know what, I might take a break.
Yeah.
And go back to the hotel, depending on where it is. So
very true.
Yeah, this next trip in November, it'll be very convenient. So
yes, it will.
Okay, so yeah, I was just curious about that because I don't know, everyone kind of has their own, and I guess it depends on if you have small kids.
Yep,
too.
I'm sure that definitely makes a difference.
Yeah. Now that my son's older, we don't need as much, but when he was, like between 3 and 10, it was pretty crucial that we took a nap, and we were okay with that.
Sure. Nope, makes total sense.
Yeah. Mobile ordering. How is that for you? How's that experience been lately?
So, this most recent trip, it was kind of hit or miss. I feel like there are some places that do it better than others, and I don't quite know why that is. For example, when I went to Hungry Bear to get that honey cream cold brew at 8 p.m. at night, I did the mobile order thinking, oh, it's just a coffee. This is quick, simple, easy. And I actually stood there and waited for, after I had said that I was there, I stood and waited for, it was like 20 minutes. And I finally went up to the counter and said, hey, I'm really sorry, but I just have a honey, like the cold brew, and I'm wondering how much longer it's going to be. And he kind of was like, because he had seen that I had been standing there that whole time. He's like, you only have the one item? I said, yeah. He's like, I'll just push it through right now. And so he went ahead and did it. And so that was probably our worst experience as far as that went. So, and the thing that was a little confusing to me is there was also a standby line, and I looked at Tag and I was like, I think I would have been like done already if I could have just gone through the standby line. In the time it took me to get my honey cream cold brew, we ordered, I think we placed the order when we were in like Adventureland, and Tag decided he wanted a Ronto wrap. So we split ways. He went and got his Ronto wrap. He came back to Hungry Bear, had already finished his Ronto wrap, and then still sat there and waited while I was waiting for my coffee. That's how long it took.
Wow.
So there was that. But then we also had another experience. It was actually at the Tiki Juice Bar where I mobile ordered a Dole Whip, and that was totally my bad. I was not planning ahead. And just kind of walked past and was like, oh, I want a Dole Whip. So I ordered my Dole Whip, and I just kind of went and waited in the Tiki waiting garden area there. And was kind of nearish the mobile order area, and I had my phone out, so the cast member there said, oh, do you have a mobile order? I said, I do, but my window's not up yet. And she's like, oh, that's okay. What's your number? And so she actually put it through right away, so I basically was able to almost just walk up and get it right away. So that was really great member or customer service from her. So that was a little bit of Disney magic for sure. So it's just, Yeah, it's just kind of all over the place,
Yeah.
I feel. So,
I noticed that, and then also, you know how it tells you like the soonest you can come back between this time and this
mhm.
time. There was one, I don't remember what it was. I think it was Stage Door, but it said, and I thought I don't want to wait like another hour to eat, so because it was way ahead, like the time was to come back in like an hour or something.
Mhm.
That was the soonest, and I thought I don't want to do that, so we ended up going somewhere else.
Yeah.
I don't know if they get backed up, so they have to change it.
My guess is that each place, depending on like staffing or just kitchen size or whatever, they only push out so many people, like so many slots per time period, and then they also have to think and consider the stand-up line or the standby line too. So like the Tiki Juice Bar, it's mobile order only, so they have total control, and it's Dole Whip, so that doesn't take there's not a lot of prep to that. Yeah. Versus something like the Hungry Bear, where they're making fries and burgers and all that stuff. So yeah, it's interesting. It kind of depends. We also had another thing where it was actually at the Disneyland Hotel. We went to Tongariro Terrace for breakfast, mobile ordered, and decided to just wander around the hotel grounds and just kind of take that in that morning. And we actually Tag went to look and see what our time was, and instead of pressing the button for I'm here, make my order, they actually pushed it through for us, so we had to get ourselves back over there because they had already started making our food before we said we were ready. So that was a little different too. But it worked out.
Yeah, I know some of the restaurants got rid of a lot of the like, did you notice at Hungry Bear there's only like one or two registers?
There's a couple places over in DCA that it was pretty obvious that they had removed registers too. I'm curious. I don't think that's going to be a permanent thing. I think there will be a blend of mobile order and standby, but it's not going to be quite what we're seeing now. I think there's going to be a couple more registers coming back.
I'd like mobile ordering, and I liked it in the beginning more because it almost seemed like a secret, like not everyone knew about it. Yeah.
Secret's out now.
But, yeah, it is. Oh wow. Yeah, so just you kind of have to plan ahead a little bit, but not as much as when the parks first reopened.
Correct. Yeah, I'd say even between our July trip to this most recent trip, the planning ahead aspect felt minimal because, like I said, I even walked past the Dole Whip stand and went, ooh, I want a Dole Whip, and just popped in there and got it right away. Whereas in July, if I would have looked at that mobile ordering thing, I probably wouldn't have gotten my Dole Whip for several hours later, unless I wanted to go stand in the line over at the Tropical Hideaway to get Dole Whip there. So that it definitely has gotten better because I feel like when we were there in July, at the height of summer, there was you had to plan a couple of hours in ahead for all of your meals that you were wanting to mobile order.
Just something real quick. You upgraded your multi-day pass to a magic
we
key,
did,
right?
yeah. That was an adventure.
Yeah. So tell the story real, quickly, I guess. If you can.
Sure. So we had multi-day tickets that we were trying to use up from pre-pandemic. So we had a 5-day park hopper with max pass, if you remember what that is, and then we also had a 3-day park hopper ticket that we were both had. So we had reservations for all of the days that we were there, but the tickets were burning a hole in our pocket, and we, instead of following the advice of waiting until the last day to do your upgrade to the key, we wanted our keys ASAP. Mostly because there was those special events going on while we were there that we wanted to take part in.
Discounts.
Yeah, well, and they had, like I said, the extra, you could stay an hour after closing on the Monday and Tuesday evenings that we were there for Haunted Mansion Holiday, so that was well worth it. So our thing was, we were like, well, we'll just watch the reservation calendar, and as long as there are reservations for Magic Keys, we'll go ahead and upgrade early, because then it's fine. Well, it got wonky. We upgraded on Sunday, and we got stuck in this really weird loop. We ended up having to go to guest relations to help get it figured out. But when we upgraded, it wouldn't let us make new reservations because it thought we still had reservations for Monday and Tuesday. So somehow the ticket reservations were still linked to our account, even though they weren't valid reservations anymore. So we went to guest services. The Plaid there was awesome. And basically, what he ended up doing was he canceled our old reservations and created new ones for us. We were a little chicken to cancel our reservations because, that's how you get in now. So we're like, we don't want to let go of them. So it all ended up working out, but it was just kind of a weird kind of limbo we were in. We were under the impression that when we upgraded that those other reservations were going to just drop and disappear since that ticket no longer existed, but since it was an active ticket that we upgraded it kind of made things a little goofy.
Yeah, so they suggest, like you had mentioned, if you have you upgrade on your last day after you go in the park.
Yes.
Right?
So like once you get into the park, you can upgrade right from the app on your own. It was a really simple process to upgrade on the app. It was just the weird reservation thing that made it tricky for us, but the rest of it was really easy and really simple.
The Magic Pass right now is kind of getting a lot of attention.
It is.
Unwanted attention, I guess. You should
That's
say.
true.
So
that is true. I've got mixed feelings on it because I think what's happening is Disneyland's trying to figure this out. We saw the same type of thing with Walt Disney World. Walt Disney World, when they first had their annual pass holders need reservations, they were blocked. Like, there were no reservations available. It was like months. It was crazy. But then they had to start reevaluating the buckets because, it's Disney. They want people in the parks. They want people in the parks spending money. So they're not going to let open reservations sit for very long. So it was interesting because this happened just yesterday. You look at the reservation calendar in the morning, there was basically no availability for the rest of this month. And then last night, suddenly there was availability again. I think there's something going on behind the scenes where the closer they get to dates, so for example, maybe it's like 3 weeks out from a certain date, there's something in the background that looks to see, okay, how many ticket reservations do we still have open? Because once you get closer to that date, a ticket holder is less likely to make a reservation versus a key holder who probably lives within driving distance for the most part. So I think we're just going to see a lot of tweaking and shifting of buckets of those reservations for quite a while. So I try to not dwell on it. I know a lot of people get upset, but I just feel like it's such a weird thing that they're trying to figure out right now that don't lose hope. Like, just keep checking, kind of like with dining reservations, like we were talking about earlier. Like, suddenly they're all gone, but then more will open up, eventually, whether that's people canceling or whatever it is. It's just, it's weird. It's weird. But I think looking at reservations for key holders today versus what it's going to look like in a year from now is going to be completely different things. We're going to be laughing about, oh, remember when you couldn't get a reservation?
Right. And for, like, you and I, where we live out of state, I have to plan ahead. I can't just go, like, tomorrow. So it doesn't affect, like, if you have a Magic Key, I was thinking about getting it in November, but it wouldn't affect us because we have to kind of plan ahead.
We're already planning ahead.
Anyways.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
It's and I used to be annual pass holder before I worked there, and so I know how that would feel if you couldn't go. I mean, we would just, my wife and I would just go, like, after she got off work at 9 o'clock and just go for, like, the last hour or two.
You know what I wish they would do? I don't know how they could implement this. I wish you could have different types of reservations. So you could have full day reservations, and you could also have, like, partial day reservations. And so you can say, if there was a reservation saying I'm not going to enter the park before 4 p.m. or something, because I think that would help too. Because if you think about it, if you have people that, again, Disney wants people in the park. So what if you have people that are morning park goers versus evening park goers? You could have, as soon as someone leaves, you could have someone else come in. So it's almost too bad they can't figure out a way to kind of break up the day so you could have different types of reservations. But I'm sure that's like years and years down the road. We're still trying to figure out the bucket, like how many reservations do we give to ticket holders versus pass holders versus, I think there's a hotel guest bucket too. So
yeah, we'll probably never know the formula of how many, and then there's the different types of passes. Like, how many per pass are they allowing?
Aren't you glad that you don't have to, like, do all the, like, tweaking and figuring out? It just sounds like a headache to me.
Yeah, it does.
Just a mess.
There's people that are really good at math. I guess they can figure a lot of this out. But, well, thank you so much for coming on, Teresa. I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll definitely have to do this again. definitely check out your show, DL Weekly, and it comes out usually every Wednesday.
Yep, every
Thursday?
Wednesday is when our new episodes drop.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll talk with you next time.